So today we're going to circle back around and make sure we haven't missed anything with the tasks required for your solution. I have not yet had a chance to update or revise this so that it shows Windows 10 version 2.0 Hotel 2. But that is the latest version. One of the things that's an issue that's occurred between today's class and 2 days ago is that there is a new cumulative update, which is going to change. So when we get to the system and the about part here, it's going to change this number. So as we apply the cumulative update, there's a pretty fair possibility that the OS build, this 19042, as long as you have 20H2 and you've updated your PC or laptop to that level, you're in good shape. But there's several different OS builds in this version. And so I was going to go ahead and try to finish the cumulative update before I posted updated information here so that it was accurate. The goal is for everybody to have a baseline that's current. And one of the challenges of digital forensics is that it's a moving target, right? So a lot of the times we're working with investigations. We could be investigating a version of Windows that is more up to date than the one that we have as a baseline, and that means the baseline is no good. So obviously system baselines require a lot of diligence and a lot of work. Are there any questions about what I've just shared about the latest update to Windows 10 and our intent to update this? So as soon as we finish our review, I'm going to go ahead and accept the new cumulative update for this month, and then see what happens to this build number. And then I'll take a snapshot of this and then update the assignment. We do have some Mac users. As long as you have loaded the latest version of the operating system, and when you run updates, your screen shows that there are no more updates available, that'll suffice. So I did want to share with you that I am finishing revisions on the study guide, and I did add a section on prove it and calibrate, validate, certify, just a brief description. I'm trying to remember if we ever covered this objective. This is, I know we talked about as I'm looking, if I start posting the assignment, I mean, not the assignment, the assessment, and we have items that reflect each of these student learning objectives. I know that we said ideally you would want to work with IT departments in advance. They would retain your services. You would coordinate with an IT department so that you have baselines of their systems and, you know, what's normal and what isn't normal. You'd also have understandings in advance when a scope of work presents that says, yeah, we're going to coordinate with you for password resets, except when sensitive positions are involved, in which case we're only dealing with the IT director. That's a little additional information. I think somewhere along the line in our sessions, I said, usually what happens is that you're called onto the scene. It's a post-mortem. Does anybody remember the term post-mortem? You know, the damage has already been done.
Yeah, after death. Isn't that what postmortem means?
Yeah, so you're called to the scene after something bad has happened. An ideal scenario would be that you're working with, and it could be a, you know, a professional office or a practice, a professional practice, or a small business or an organization. Ideally, you would coordinate with them in advance and provide some very brief but important consulting services. And we've talked about the term penetration test, right? I think. So you have these, you would, ideally, they would be familiar with who you are and what you're doing, and you wouldn't want to step into an investigation sight unseen, you know, oh, this is my first, you know, this is the first morning, this is the first time I've set foot on your site, right? The reality is most often, much of your opportunities for forensic engagement are of that type and not the ideal scenario. What happens often is that too many organizations don't value forensics until they need it. And then if they're called after the fact, there are gaps in what forensics can do for them because the stage wasn't set and they didn't do what was appropriate to ensure that they had something they could work with. One good example is that a forensic professional would come onto the scene, and then the first thing a forensic professional would do in advance of a forensic engagement would say, hey, where's your login banner? You know, that notice that pops up on the screen when people are about to log in that says when you log in, you consent to inspection of your stuff and you realize that this system is used for business purposes and for authorized individuals alone. We did talk about banners and notifications, yes? And how that changes the ability of a forensic specialist to analyze, because privacy issues are not, you know, the Fourth Amendment, search and seizure. If people agree up front and they consent to, you know, if they sign off on a acceptable use policy, that's the ideal case. I believe we covered all that, or ideas similar to that. Does that ring a bell with anyone?
Repeat the last question, please. Having a bit of internet issues over
Is what I just described, does that sound familiar? Okay, well, the new revision of the study guide will have some quick details if it didn't have that stuff previously. And I think some of the content needs to be organized so that it tracks with the letters on the listing here. So that's one thing we're doing. We did talk about using a hashing tool to make sure that things, copies, install files, and so on are untainted or uncorrupted, yes?
A hashing tool is used to protect the validity of data.
Right.
Correct, correct.
Oh,
So if you download a version of Kali to use for forensics, and you want to make sure that, remember the calibrate, validate, certify, yes? Your forensic tools can be infected or corrupted. Believe it or not, there have been cases where forensic digital evidence specialists, right? Digital forensic examiners, their credibility has been ruined because they had a set of tools that were corrupted by malicious actors, and they didn't ensure that the source file they used to set up their forensic tools was clean. So in any case, I think that if you're getting ready to take our first assessment and you run across any gaps in the knowledge or content from our previous sessions, or from the notes you've taken, or from the reading in the textbook, you can always send me an email and let me know. But I just wanted to take a moment to share with you that I'm almost finished with the revision. I'm just making sure that we've covered everything thoroughly. Does anyone have any questions at this point?
None for me.
Okay. So I wanted to talk a bit about MAC identities and network addresses and firewall rules. We did talk about resetting firewall rules last session, yes?
Yes.
Okay. Did we talk about identifying the MAC address with a command?
I don't think so.
Okay, so part of your baseline is to, this is all about calibrate, validate, and certify, yes? So as you're performing your first solution and creating a baseline, one of the things you want to establish is your MAC identity. Your laptop or PC has a media access control address or identity. It's unique. There are no two MAC addresses or MAC identities. I prefer the term identity because it's a specific hexadecimal value that is unique to that network interface. On my wireless card, if I run the command ipconfig /all, my wireless Wi-Fi adapter has a unique hexadecimal identity that never changes. But the reason it's important to record this as a part of a normal baseline is because you want to understand if anything changes with your own network configurations. Oftentimes hackers will modify network configurations. In the case that they are performing an impersonation or man-in-the-middle attack, they will often alter the default gateway so that your device will go to their device before your traffic goes out on the internet. They'll substitute the default gateway address for their own address so that as you're communicating, all of your data is running through them, and they're siphoning it, they're investigating it, they're modifying it potentially, especially when it comes to logins and man-in-the-middle attacks. They're copying what you're doing and how you're doing, and this is all happening live. Another thing that they're going to do is poison the DNS. They want you to go to their DNS servers and not the DNS servers that are specified. Or they'll turn on an outdated network protocol like NetBIOS so that they can do other networking under the radar, because the security appliances are all looking at TCP/IP and none of them are looking at NetBIOS. So they'll turn on NetBIOS and then they'll start sliding data between machines. When they compromise one machine, it's called a pivot. A pivot, it's a fulcrum around which they rotate their attack to other machines. So all they have to do is compromise one machine. It's important to just get a snapshot. You can modify the subnet mask, and somebody who exploits your system can change the subnet mask. If they're using it as a pivot to attack other machines, if they change this value, they can see more of the address range locally than what is intended. So it's good to get all of this information. MAC addresses can be spoofed or changed, even though they're intended to be a unique identity that belongs to only one network interface. And a skilled attacker will use this value to change the MAC address of another network interface, again, to listen in. So there's two devices on the local network. So traffic is determined by the MAC address on the local network, not by the IP address, especially with older network protocols. And so they can change the MAC address of their machine to pretend to be your device, and they can also receive the same traffic that's intended for this MAC address. So it's another flavor of listening attack, right? They're eavesdropping on all the traffic that's going to and from this MAC address. Ideally, your network equipment has security features that are turned on, so if there's a duplicate MAC address, somebody gets a warning. But the point is, you want this information as a part of your baseline. So one of the things you want to do is to issue the command ipconfig /all. And in a Mac environment, you're opening terminal and you're issuing the command ifconfig without the dash slash or /all, right? So it's just ifconfig. One useful method to capture this information is to write the contents, the output of this command, to a text file, and then simply submit or save the text file, and that becomes a permanent record. You'll notice that I have other wireless adapters that are virtual, right? They're virtual adapters, and it has to do with the fact that I'm running virtual machines. So I have virtual network interfaces. I also have an Ethernet adapter. And this shows that my Ethernet adapter, while it's not being used, IPv6 is turned on. So those are the kinds of things that, all right, so that's the virtual Ethernet adapter.
Quick question.
Yes.
Could you press Control A to see if it could just copy everything and then we could just paste it into Notepad?
Control 8.
Or Control and the letter A.
A. Wow.
Oh yeah, then you could just copy that entire thing into Notepad.
You can, as long as you don't have anything else. You want the results of a single command in your text file. So that is another way to do it, yes. It's best, all right, so I don't know if I've shared this with you previously in this class, but in most classes I eventually get around to explaining that on your C drive, it's good to have a temp folder, a temp directory. And you use this for all sorts of purposes, but basically, if I repeat this same command and then I redirect with the right arrow symbol to c:\temp /ipconfig underscore results, or say result underscore one .txt. When I do this, I don't get anything on the screen. But then if I hit my start menu and I start to type ipconfig, usually what happens is that as soon as that's created, it'll pop up in the list. In this case, I've been doing some things with ipconfig and it's showing the run command. But if you know where your temp folder is, you can simply go here and click on date modified. And there's my results. And now I have a record of my network configuration specifics. And so I've captured some important baseline information. Now this is the local internal non-routable IP address. Another part of your snapshot involves GRC shields up. There are two other commands that I wanted to share with you. Have we talked about netsh and netstat yet? Yes?
Not too sure.
Not too sure. That would be a no. So here's the information in the study guide. I'm going to tweak this a little bit, but basically another good command to run after you've removed unused, outdated, and unknown apps. We covered that in the last session, right? You're going into your control panel and removing unused, unknown, or outdated apps. Yes? Before you do your updates, because that's going to make your right. I thought we covered that. Yeah. So, and then we reset the firewall rules, right? So if we reset the firewall rules, some of our firewall changes that were brought about by previous applications we no longer have should be different. Netstat A reveals socket information, specifically the common resource or application. So if you have something that's active on your network through your interface, and it's sending and receiving or listening for traffic on a port, you want to know what application that is. Netstat A will show you the application that's active as a client-server network scenario, right? So if you remember CSC 243, networking, we may have talked about client-server, how you have a server and you have a client and they connect and there's a session, and you know, which one's the server, which one's the client. Does everybody remember that? Kind of, sort of, maybe? May have been a while, or you haven't had 243 yet. It's okay to say, no, I don't remember. Can I get a response from anybody to know we're here?
I don't remember.
You don't remember, okay. So we're going to take this command and I'm going to do the same kind of thing. I'm going to modify it a little bit. I'm going to right click with my mouse and I'm going to use my left arrow key and put this temp directory in here. So now I'm running netstat. This is going to take a minute, but the results are part of your baseline. What's significant about this command is that if you have server sockets, if you have active sockets that are in play because of an application, you're going to have a listing of that. And as your system changes, if it's been compromised, that list will change. So as I look at this in my C drive temp folder, and I look at the latest, here are my netstat results. And, you know, so this is loop back. You have some active things that are going on, but have a look, everyone. These are web-based applications. Does everybody see that? And that's the port it's working on. Now, mine is a lively list because I'm running a Zoom session. I'm upstreaming my screens to share with you. I'm also on a website. By the way, here's a job. I meant to share this with you. They are advertising for a disaster recovery help desk technician for the Virgin Islands Housing Finance Authority. And some of the skills that they're asking for: provide technical assistance and support for incoming queries and issues. Yeah, if you have forensic skills, that's a great base of knowledge to work with when people are calling in with problems. My screen is acting funny. My mouse is moving around on the screen. What do I do? Right? If you have that forensic perspective, that's going to help you work a whole lot more effectively there. Maintaining the daily performance of computer systems. We're talking about baselines. The whole idea of baselines is to understand what's normal and not. If you're maintaining daily performance of computer systems, so a lot of the skills that you're learning in forensics would apply and actually make you more competitive if you were applying for this job. Assist in the diagnosis and resolution of network and telecommunications. Yeah, that's network forensics, a good component of it. Monitor network health and performance. Again, network performance, right? Now I know they're talking about occasionally recrimp faulty cabling, so right here they're talking about troubleshooting infrastructure cabling issues. That's hardware level. But in terms of knowledge, skills, and ability, ability to maintain confidentiality in all assignments. So anyway, I just thought I would share this with you so you could see the value of the knowledge, skills, and abilities you're picking up in your coursework here at UBI. Right now, what I'd like to do is have you open a browser tab. So let's get back to our network baseline. And there's one more command I need to cover now that I'm thinking about it. So it's the netsh command. This one shows applications that have network activity that's active, so that's a good part of your snapshot. A third command that you're going to want to use for your snapshot is netsh interface IPv4 show neighbors. This one's a little longer command, but I'm going to go ahead and copy this, and I'll modify it again by adding that temp directory into the path. So if I were to use Control A now, I'd have a whole lot of detail from different commands, and that's the only downside to using Control A. So that one ran very quickly. And if I go ahead and refresh this again, here's my netsh results. It's going to show me which neighbors are doing something based on the interface. Ethernet, there's nothing. It's the Wi-Fi that we're more interested. So yeah, it doesn't seem like there's anything of concern right now. The important thing to understand is that when you capture this baseline, if you run the command again and you check against your previous values, if the list changes, for interface 4 Wi-Fi, right? If this list changes, when you know something's going on, right? So you have more neighbors in the mix, and you ask yourself, wait a minute, on my network, there's a small number of clients. Why do I have extra neighbors here? So this is useful for picking up on changes in the network environment. This first one gives you information on layer 3 and layer 2. Now let's look at a website that's very helpful that will help you pick up on. We did tell you about the network equipment that was exposed from the other class on Tuesday, didn't we? Did we share this with you? Students in another class discovered that there were vulnerabilities on their network equipment at home. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So as a part of your baseline for your system, for the network portion right here, MAC identities, network addresses, and firewall rules, this is going to be revised slightly here. All right. I talked about NetBIOS and that it was disabled, so you want to make sure that that's something that's, if you do the ipconfig command, then that information will be in there. But we're going to add GRC shields up, and that's because it's going to give you layer 4 information. And it's going, because of the way that GRC shields up works, you notice it's a capital U, capital P. You're going to select Internet Vulnerability Profiling. Have we walked through this before in class? Anyone?
I remember walking in the previous class, just not this one.
Okay.
Yeah, the same thing.
Same.
Yeah.
We saw this in a previous class. This one I just don't remember.
In a different class, but not this class?
Yeah.
Right. So I'm adding this criteria for your network baseline, that the network component of your baseline, because oftentimes things will show up here that don't show up with the other tests. So if I run netstat A or I run netsh, if I run local network forensic tools, I'm not going to see a problem with my network. But if I run this scan for all service ports, it's going to basically interact with this client across the network, and it's likely going to encounter a site firewall that's usually embedded in your wireless access router. And if it's a laptop or a PC, and some game consoles now have firewalls, it will encounter a built-in client firewall, like a Windows Defender firewall. And what's significant about this, this test will validate that your firewall status is effective, and it's working. And in my case, if I turn off my firewall, did we do this in this class previously? Don't think we did it in this class. I turn it off. So you get a screenshot of your results with your firewall enabled. Then you go in here and turn off your firewall, turn off the Windows Defender firewall, or turn off your Mac firewall. It's going to fuss. You don't want to leave it that way for long. I'm going to run my test again. It may squawk at you and say that it can't run the test. That means you just have to close the tab, go back to Google, search for GRC Shields up again, come at it with a new session. Coincidentally, if you take mobile devices like smartphones and tablets, smartphones and tablets do not have a built-in client firewall. Let's say that again. A mobile device that's on wireless does not have a built-in firewall. Now, there is a catch that needs to be understood here. If you have a smartphone and you're connected with Wi-Fi and you run this test, you can get a false read unless you're in airplane mode. What am I saying? Do you have to have Wi-Fi connected to browse the internet on your smartphone? Yes or no?
Repeat that question.
Do you have to have Wi-Fi enabled on your smartphone to browse the internet?
Yes.
So
No. Unless you're using a pay-as-you-go phone and you ran out of minutes, most LTE 4G data plans allow you to do email and messaging and apps and web stuff on your smartphone, even when you're not connected to Wi-Fi, correct? I mean,
I did not know that.
you can do Facebook, yeah, you can do WhatsApp, you can do, and when you're only connected to the cellular service. That's because there is a gateway on the back end of the cellular service tower that interfaces with the internet, and it passes your cellular data traffic through that onto the internet. Another layer of equipment, right? So what am I saying? If you're going to test and you want a baseline of your personal devices, your smartphone, one thing you want to do is run this test with cellular service only. Then you want to run this test in airplane mode using Wi-Fi. And when you're using Wi-Fi, because your smartphone doesn't have a client built-in firewall like Windows Defender, you're going to get, it's going to tell you what's happening with your wireless access router. It'll give you a status of whether your wireless access router is working. Just like I did now, I turned off my Windows Defender firewall. I ran the test again. This shows that my Wi-Fi router or wireless access point, its firewall is doing its job. And this is a baseline condition, right? So if I come back next week and now all of a sudden I see blues, or I see blues with red, I'm in trouble. There's a third test you can run, and this is very revealing, and I would recommend it highly, even as a part of a baseline. You go into your wireless router, you turn off the firewall on the wireless router while your client firewall is off. And what you should see is that everything is closed. You should see all blues, which means I don't have a firewall that's screening activity on layer 4. So I'm not getting any reads on layer 4 port activity, TCP, UDP, any of that, right? So the value of this assessment is that it captures the activity in different scenarios on layer 3 and on layer 4. When I say layer 3, I'm talking about the public IP address. Notice the contrast. In here, this is my local internal private IP address. This result gives me, what my public IP address is. If I come back and perform this baseline later because I need to do a forensic analysis, and so I'm checking some things, and I find out that the public IP address I'm receiving now isn't from the same range, right? These are automatically assigned by DHCP typically. They're not usually DHCP reservations. They're not statically assigned. So you can get a different client address, but it's still public from the same range. If I come back and instead of seeing 208.84.196, I see 46.93. Whatever else, I'm like, okay, what the hell's going on? Oh, yeah, that would be my cellular network assigned IP address. That would be the gateway address for the cellular network. So I got to turn off I got to go to airplane mode, right? So you put your smartphone in airplane mode. You should still see the same network address range. If you don't, something's changed. Something big has changed, right? So if you're doing everything the same and you're doing everything correctly, and you're getting a new public IP address that's not at all from the same range, there could be network traffic redirected at your service provider, and maybe they don't even know that they're being hacked.
Hello?
Yes, hello.
So I went to that website again. I don't have the green rectangle. It says the target IP address did not respond to probes. What's over there?
Okay. I'm going to stop sharing and let's have a quick look. Okay. Can you share your screen?
Okay, give me a second.
This is a great way to get definitive proof that security posture has improved. You ran the wrong test. So you did the universal plug and play test. So universal plug and play is a feature that is used to, well, it's used to assist with plug and play devices. So click proceed, yeah?
Which one? This one or that?
Either one. It's the middle button in the top row, all service ports. All service ports, right? So the universal plug and play, if you have gaming networks, you have gaming consoles, and there's, you know how you can put on headsets and virtual reality things, and does everybody remember Dance Dance Revolution?
Yeah.
Okay, so you can basically do stuff where you wear or carry or hold wands. You can play tennis, you can do golf, whatever.
Yeah.
Because you're working with a game that could have network elements, you have to, those devices need to sync up and they need to be enabled. And so this plug and play framework is something that the operating system offers. Universal plug and play is a way to enable accessories and devices for network scenarios, right? For network scenarios. Okay, so it looks like you have a good result. And that's on your laptop, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's one of the things you want to capture for your baseline, but only after you perform all the other things.
All right then.
All right, so notice, all right, so I'm going to go ahead and, do you have any other questions, Snyder?
So we're gonna be optimizing our computer for this class too.
Yeah, pretty much.
Next, we're gonna do this test after we optimize it.
Yes.
All right.
All right, so Schneider was saying optimizing. We're using virtual systems, and most of you have laptops that are suitable for working virtual systems. And networking, we're going to be doing virtual environments for networking. In digital forensics, we're using virtual machines because one of the virtual machines will Enable has forensic tools built in. So everything's all together and it's ready to go, and it's easy to use. And both of those scenarios require good system health. And oftentimes the software, whether we're talking about a networking course or we're talking about a digital forensics course, the software doesn't always work half the time for students, and that's painful and it's frustrating, and there are delays, and then it takes longer to finish a module, unless you take care of business up front, and in the first module you have some manner of technology assessment and enhancement process. And so optimizing your personal technology is something that we've embedded into many of the courses that we have, especially where, you know, some students have older laptops and there's limited resources. You know, the CPU doesn't have as many cores or it doesn't have as many gigs of RAM. 9 times out of 10, if people work through that process and then they conduct the first rounds of activity in their solutions, we have very few problems. So I just wanted to provide some additional context for you there. It's great if you're doing it in more than one class, because you're kind of killing 2 birds with 1 stone, right? Again, I'll revise section 3 to include the GRC shields up part of this, but the intent of using the 3 commands, ipconfig, netstat, and netsh, is to capture layer 2 and layer 3 details, and whether or not you have additional network protocols that are active. Ordinarily, I would say, unless you want to get hacked, you should disable IPv6. What am I saying? If you do your ipconfig/all and you see an IPv6 address, it means that your IPv6 protocol is turned on. And what you should do is go into your your network and click on change adapter properties, and then double click on the adapter, and then go into properties, and then make sure that this box is unchecked. Okay?
Professor Kensop,
Yes.
Not showing your screen.
we're not seeing your screen.
Oh, thank you for telling me that. Okay. So once again, you're going to pull up the network adapters in your network options, and you're going to change the adapter options. And here, let's walk through this again real quick. So I went here, and I went to network and internet settings. View hardware and connection properties. Yeah, so this is one place where you can get MAC addresses, right? Here are your MAC addresses. This is another way of getting that information, but the text files are very efficient. So if you have screenshots of the graphics, that takes up a lot of data and a lot of space. If you just have a text file, it's very efficient, and you can keep multiples, you know, result 1, result 2, result 3. If you go into Wi-Fi specifically, there's an option to change adapter settings. And now you see all of your network adapters. I have an Ethernet adapter. I have a virtual machine adapter, and I have a Wi-Fi adapter. So if I walk into my Wi-Fi adapter, this is another place where you can get MAC address and specifics. But again, if you do an alt print screen, it's just takes up a lot more disk space. I click on properties, and now I scroll down. IPv6 should be unchecked unless you're operating in a network where IPv6 is enabled and properly configured, I recommend everyone disable IPv6. No internet service providers anywhere in the territory are using IPv6. Now, if you call the help desk and talk to support for any of our internet service providers, they'll say, yeah, our devices and our network is IPv6 capable, because they don't want to look bad. But then you say, okay, so help me with the address ranges. What are you using? And then they can't answer questions. And then they come back to you after they get a supervisor who says, yeah, it's capable, but we don't have it turned on. If you're running extra protocols, you're exposed because a hacker can connect between devices using IPv6 when they can't connect with IPv4. So you want to make sure with your baseline, if you come back to your baseline and you discover now you have IPv6 addresses, you're going to be thinking, okay, why is that turned on? Why is that active? Did I update a wireless driver and the driver changed the protocols and just automatically enabled IPv6? Many smart devices include IPv6 and it's enabled out of the box, and it's bad. It's bad for us in our territory. Are there any questions about turning off IPv6? So I'll embed that additional information here in section 3. I need to pause for a brief moment. So can everybody just take 1 minute to stand up and stretch? And I'll be right back.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes. Yes, sir.
Okay. So part of a baseline, a forensic baseline, involves calculations. We'll get to that last in our final segment. We did cover local domain and third-party user profiles, yes?
Yeah.
Okay. I want to call that out a little more. I want to revisit that. If I create a new user account on my system, well, by the way, we did say that the first account that's ever created on a brand new system, the out-of-box experience, OOBE, out-of-box experience, means you turn it on for the first time from the factory. It says who's going to use this computer. Whatever you set up is going to be a privileged account with elevated capabilities, right? It's an administrative or root account, right? We have discussed this before, right? And ordinarily it's considered a best practice for no one, absolutely no one, to operate with an administrative account when they browse the web and work email, because more than 90% of exploits that occur across web and email resources, online apps, web sites, email. So if you're logged in with a standard user account, when something bad happens, it'll prompt for an administrative login. That's your first clue that something bad is happening. And for you to, that's when the hackles on the back of your neck, the red light should go off, a buzzer should sound, and you should pop on your digital evidence specialist, yes, I'm a certified forensics person, hat, and go to work, right? Everyone with me?
Yeah, I'm with you.
Yes.
Yeah. I recently created a separate account. So when we talk about user profiles, yesterday for a separate class, I wanted to add someone else to this PC. And when I added someone else to this PC, it tried to get me to use an online cloud-based profile. Hey, you know, don't you want to set up an Office 365 account? You know, enter your Office 365 account. Oh, you don't have one? Let's set one up. They want you to do something with the cloud. Microsoft does this. Apple does this. They ask you for your iCloud, right? Google does this. Amazon does this. Everybody's doing this. They want you to own a profile, a user account out online, and it's what we call a third-party account. Most often, when you're setting up systems for better security and for better forensics, you don't want that. You really don't want that. And here's why. If your digital evidence goes to the iCloud, can you tell Apple to cough up the rest of the iCloud data in a certain iCloud profile? What is Apple going to tell you? Well, ma'am, well, sir, is this your iCloud account personally? No, but I'm an authorized investigator, and I have a scope of work to investigate some malfeasance, potential malfeasance that's occurring at the work site. And I have all the documentation here. The human resources director and the president of the company want me to investigate what's going on. There could be intellectual property from the company that is improperly copied to this person's private stuff, and that would be a direct violation of the, you know, the policy of the company and the hiring agreement where they signed for confidentiality. We think they're giving secrets to the business, to the competition, right? You know what iCloud's going to say? Do you have a violin? Break out your violin and play me something. Sing me a song. I don't know. What are you doing for lunch today? They're basically they're gonna give you everything but what you ask for, because their service agreement to the iCloud profile owner is that there are certain standards of confidentiality and privacy that they are obligated to maintain. And here's another thing, they're in California. And California jurisdiction and their rules in privacy and cyber law is very different than the Virgin Islands. So you go fishing for details that are embedded in an iCloud account and you can't go anywhere. This is a huge problem. Ideally, when you're consulting with a company or a practice, a professional practice up front, on the front side, when you assess their infrastructure and how their accounts are set up, if you see this kind of thing, you're going to say, oh, no, 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 no. The accounts that people use on your equipment, on your systems, need to be local accounts or domain accounts, accounts that you own, accounts that are not third party out in the cloud, that are protected by other and different privacy and rules and regulations that we have no control over. So I created the George Jessup local account. That is not a third-party account used to create a user login. It is a local account. And when you click add someone else to this PC to create a local account, yeah, most equipment manufacturers now are going to make this difficult. See how it's asking you to sign in, right? So Xbox, you have a sign in for Xbox. They're going to tap anything and everything that you have that previously existed with Microsoft. They're also going to ask you to enter the email or phone number to sign in. I don't have this. You're going to answer, click, I don't have this person's information. Then they're going to ask you to create one. Oh, well, yeah, we'll just get a new one, right? No, I'm going to add a user without a Microsoft account. That's going to be a local account, right? And so you're going to enter a password that's proper here. And the moment you start doing this, it's going to ask you to record some shared secrets in case the passwords need to be changed, right? The point I'm trying to make is that there are different kinds of accounts, and in your users folder, they will present differently. A third-party account will look different. So the T. Christian Kentop account is not it's not gonna present the same way that a George Jessup account will present because it's based on a third-party account. This was a local account that somebody set up, and except that there's no user account in here. If I look inside, I'm not going to find TC Kentop, I don't think. Let's go into manage. Let's go into local users and groups. Oh, there is one. TC Ken. How about that? But wait a minute. If I go into control panel and I go into user accounts, see, did you see TC Ken here?
No.
No, you didn't. But you see TC Ken in computer management, right? So it doesn't show on this screen. Let's see if it shows in control panel when I go into user accounts. No, come on, user accounts. There we go. Manage another account. Do we see TC Ken in here?
No.
Yeah, that would be your first clue that there's like a rogue account on your system. So when we talk about the different types of accounts and assessing what's in the user profiles, your starting point is users. You want to look in here. And then you look under Windows account, under home, accounts. And you want to look at family and other users. Oh gosh, I don't see TC Ken. Let's go to control panel. Oh, I'm sorry. Let's go to control panel. Look at it under users in control panel. Manage another account. Let's see if it shows up in this list. No, this list matches the other Windows option. So what did I do here? I'm using a Microsoft Management Console called Computer Management, and it shows local users and groups. And when I look, I find out something really odd. I don't see TC Kirsten Kentop here under name, but I see it here under full name. So something weird is going on, and it could be that I have a poser on my system, right? And they're going to put T Christian Kentop in the full name when the account is created. And that's what's going to happen, is that the system is going to get confused, because in plain terms, isn't T Christian Kentop an existing and valid account? Hello? Yes?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a valid account. Okay. So what the heck's going on? I have a user profile called T Christian, but then I have this TC Ken. It's only until I start checking the last option that I get to see something is off. There is also value in looking up your user profiles or login profiles with one more tool. So when we talk about local domain and third-party user profiles, once again, I'm going to update this section. I want to tell you about something called Regedit. There are two flavors of Regedit. There's the EDT registry editor, and this has been around with Windows forever. It lets you look inside the registry, which is kind of like heart, lung, brain surgery, right? Look inside the brain of Windows. So it's a component that's that's embedded in the kernel of the operating system. And there's a lot of stuff that hackers love to get into in here, but there's also a lot of proof and evidence in the registry. I don't advise that you use this version of the registry editor because it's the legacy version and there are some safeguards in there that don't exist. Like, or there's some options that don't exist, like getting a backup copy of your registry before you look in there. There is one thing you need to know about investigating the registry. If you go in the registry and you make a change, it's applied instantaneously in real time. And if it's a bad change, you can't undo it. Put another way, you can brick your entire system by making a single change in the registry that can't be undone. So do not use the legacy original reg edit. Everybody got that? Important safety tip, use 32, reg edit 32. I'm going to run as administrator. And I'm going to look for something called temporary profiles. So let's go to Google, look up temporary profiles, Windows Registry. So I just want you to remember the search string. Different versions of Windows will, so your mileage may vary. Here's a reference to Windows 7. Pretty sure it's in here though. All right, H key local machine, that's what HKLM means, right? Hive key local machine software, Microsoft Windows NT current version profile list. Let's look. H key local machine, LM. Is everybody with me? You understand the reference there? HKLM local machine. I'm looking in software. So I've expanded software. Everybody with me?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now I'm looking for Microsoft Windows NT. Now that's the legacy original operating system for Windows Server. What was it? And we're almost done, by the way. Windows NT current version, Microsoft. So I go to Microsoft, then I go to Windows NT. This is really embedded. So this is old school, right? This is like, hey, how do you get into the original code for Windows? Current version, yeah?
Mr. Gendop, is it right if I leave since you're over time?
Yeah,
Got some other things to do.
yeah, yeah. Profile list. Current version profile list. That's what we're looking for. This is the last thing we're doing. Profile list. Now, this is a security ID associated with other logins. That's kind of weird, but you want the profile list. This shows public, users, default, and then something else. So when I click on this, I get a chance to check to see what these profiles are. And what I have are basically two valid profiles. These are default profiles that are built in. Default, user, and something else. It has to do with the operating system. The ones that have long security ID numbers, those are authentic, valid profiles. Okay? So when I look at my users folder and I go, okay, I have default, owner, and public. Those are the three that are built in. Those are the short ones. And then I have the two, owner, no, I'm sorry, default and public are there. It's owner and T Christian are the two valid ones. So let me change that. It's default, public, and then something else. Those are common. Those short ones are always there. The valid ones that we see right here there's a security ID on the system associated with those two, and you see the profile list shows there are two different profiles that are good. The fact that I don't see that third one is a problem. The fact that I don't see something else listed here tells me that's a rogue profile. And the way it's set up to look like it's T. Christian Kentop with the full name, but it's not. It's another account. It's an unauthorized account. So as you're establishing your baseline, what do you want to check? You want to check the user's directory where you're viewing everything that's hidden, yeah, and default is hidden, and public is not hidden, and you want to see if there's anything that pops out. And you want to look in the registry. You want to look in accounts to see what's there. You want to look in control panel to see what's there. And finally, you want to look in computer management to see what's there. And that's where you're going to see something that doesn't add up. And when you're trying to establish a proper baseline that's known secure, known stable, this is a clean system, this is the perfect example of something you don't want to find. So in other words, my machine right here would be a bad machine to use to create a baseline because I've got something that's whacked. What should be the case is that owner and T. Christian, right, should be in the user folder. I have a new local account, but George Jessup has never logged in. The moment George Jessup logs in, a valid user directory called George Jessup will be added. Then I'll see something in the registry with a security ID for George Jessup because he logged in successfully the first time. I'll also see something in control panel, right? And I do. I just don't see it here. So your baseline system needs to have user profiles in the file system that track with the accounts on the system. And if there are any discrepancies, that's cause to wave off and say, okay, this isn't going to be a good tool to use as a baseline. This system isn't, I'm going to have to start over. I got to have a clean system to use for a baseline. There's one more quick thing I'd like to share with you about your baseline. We're not going to do it here, but we're going to do it in the next, I'll tell you what. Yeah, we'll just skip all that. We'll save all that for the next module. You would want to do a baseline calculation, but we'll explain all that with the next module, okay? So I'll go ahead and finish revising this. You'll see all the new criteria that we've just reviewed and discussed as a part of the assignment document and the rubric. You'll have until next Tuesday to complete both the solution and the assessment. Are there any questions?
No questions.
None.
Okay. All right. I'm going to stop
Professor
recording.
Kentop,